Okay, thank you. Roll call. Do I do that?
Vice Chair Armstead,
Here.
Commissioner Quill,
Here.
Commissioner Flores,
Here.
Commissioner Sherrick,
Present.
Commissioner Garcia.
Here.
Today we have Commissioner Lopez and Lewis excused, and Commissioner Ivan Garcia is absent.
And Vice Chair Armstead, I understand that Jennifer has another announcement to make about translation.
Yes. If there's anyone today needing translation services, we do not have the headsets, but we do have an interpreter here who is available to sit with anyone that needs it. Just let me know if anyone does need it.
Administration of oath. Is anybody going to speak? I have one speaker slip.
Yes. Okay. Can you please stand, raise your right hand? Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give before this body will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Okay. Closed session, we had none. Let's see, public comments, not on the agenda. Any comments not on the agenda? Okay. Is there anyone wishing to speak on a matter that is not on the agenda? No? Okay. We'll proceed to the consent agenda. Consent items are considered routine in nature and may be enacted in one motion. All public and non-public hearings will be opened at one time. Any item may be discussed separately upon request of a member of the Planning Commission or member of the public. So our consent. We only have one item on the consent item. Does staff have any updates to the consent calendar? No? Okay. We have one consent item, that is the minutes of the minutes of the December 12th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay,
Second.
any opposed? None? Passes?
Vice Chair Armstead, we need a roll call vote.
Oh, we need a roll call vote. Oh, okay.
So you can ask Jennifer to please call the roll.
Okay. Jennifer, can you please call the roll?
Vice Chair Armstead,
I agree.
Commissioner Quill,
Yes.
Commissioner Flores,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia.
Yes.
Vote passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we took care of that. All right. Public hearing items. The Planning Commission will first hear do I go for that already?
Vice Chair Armstead, we do have
non-public.
one non-public hearing item first. It's item 2, selection of the chair and vice chair. I do want to advise the commission, even though in the agenda it states that it will be for a 6-month term from January 2024 to July 2024, it's actually for a full 12 months. Your bylaws state that the officer shall be elected by a majority of the commissioners present at the first regular meeting in January. And so that means that they serve until the next January. So it's actually for 12 months. And the procedure here is any one of you could throw your name in the hat for chair or vice chair. There's no need for that to be seconded. And then the commission can vote in the order of the nominations received. You'll do chair first and then vice chair second. And then whoever is elected chair will be chair for the rest of tonight's meeting. Do you have any questions about the process?
Any questions?
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Garcia.
I have a question. Just, would we be able to discuss that privately prior, or we just throw names out now? I mean,
No, it's for right now. I turn it back to you, Vice Chair.
okay.
Okay, any commissioner wants to throw their name in the hat to be chair?
I'll throw my name in the hat to be vice chair.
I'll throw mine in to be chair.
Okay.
Anybody else? That's it? Sir?
So if there are no other nominations, oh, sorry, Commissioner Garcia.
Sorry, I got a nomination for Lisa Sherrick as chair.
Okay.
Okay, so then what do we do?
Now we vote, the commission will vote in the order of the nominations received. So Vice Chair Armstead was the first name I heard for chair. So Jennifer, you could ask for a roll call vote on Dolores Armstead for chair. And if there's not a majority, then you could proceed to call for a vote for Lisa Sherrick for chair.
Okay. We'll start with Commissioner Quill.
This is the vote.
Yes.
This one is for Dolores Armstead for chair.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Flores,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia,
Yes.
and then Vice Chair Armstead.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Votes five all in favor, it passes.
And Larry Quill, was that the only name that you heard, Jennifer, for vice chair?
Yes.
Okay, so you could go ahead and call for the vote on that.
Okay.
I was gonna throw,
Oh, I'm sorry.
oh,
Dolores,
Mr.
were you
Flores?
gonna make a nomination for vice chair?
Mr. Flores?
Okay. And I forgot to do this before, but Commissioner Flores, since Chair Armstead nominated you, do you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Okay. So Jennifer, you can record the vote first for Larry, and if there's not a majority, then you can proceed to Jesus.
Commissioner Flores,
Yes, for Commissioner Quill.
or Vice Chair Armstead, sorry.
Now, this is for,
For
Larry Quill,
Vice Chair
for
for
Vice Chair.
Larry.
okay. I had nominated Flores, so,
So is-
So
Um,
is your
no.
vote yes or no?
No.
No?
correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Sherrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia,
Yes.
There we go. So, Mr.,
and then Commissioner Quill.
so he's the vice chair. Okay. You got it?
So vote is 4 yes, 1 no. Vote passes.
Okay.
And now you can proceed to the public hearing items.
Oh, okay. Okay, public hearing items. The planning commission will first hear a report from staff, and then the public hearing will be opened. The applicant will have an opportunity to speak. Next, members of the public will be allowed to speak. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak must be sworn in and also fill out a request to speak form. The forms are located on the table near the door. When your name is called, please come forward and speak into the microphone. Say and spell your name and give your address for the taped record. After all have spoken, the applicant will be allowed to respond. The public hearing will then be closed and the Planning Commission will begin deliberations and make a decision. All actions except general plan amendments and amendments to the municipal department code are final action unless an appeal is filed and a fee paid within 15 days to the Community Development Department. If you challenge the resultant action of the Planning Commission in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described in this agenda, or in written correspondence delivered to the Community Development Department at or prior to the public hearing. So we are on item number 3, sign permit.
Hi, good evening, Honorable Chair and members of the Planning Commission. This is a sign permit 23-058, and this is a unique sign permit that we're bringing before you today. It's a request to refurbish an existing water tower for installing a painted sign. I'll introduce Elizabeth Mora Rodriguez to our senior planner to give the presentation. But this is exciting because this is the water tank that originally was at Norton Air Force Base. And at great expense, San Manuel was our local tribal government actually paid to have this. I believe it was the tribal government, but the San Manuel tribe actually is sponsoring the project and bringing this historic landmark. So I'll turn it over to Elizabeth.
Hi, good evening. This is, as Mary indicated, this is sign permit 23058. The proposement is to refurbish an existing water tower that was part of the former Norton Air Force Base. And so it was an existing sign at that location, and it was relocated to the project site that it's presently at. Property is 2615 East 3rd Street within the Specific Plan Alliance California plan. Here we have a rendering of the sign if it's approved in terms of how it will look in comparison to the established location and the development of that site. We have the location map. As you can see, this is still part within the Specific Alliance California specific plan. It is surrounded within the airport property. We do have some residentially zoned properties. It is also abutting some of the property within the city of Highland, and it has also some warehouse types of development and vacant property surrounding it. Here, this is a older view of the site. It is now fully developed and has surrounding landscaping and aesthetics and picnic areas under the water tower. In accordance with section 19.22060 of the Development Code, it allows for the creative signs. Part of that is that we bring creative signs to the Planning Commission for their review and their determination. The sign, as mentioned, was part of the former Norton Air Force Base as a water supply in 1959. During the base closure, there was a process where the water tower was deeded to the Inland Valley Development Agency, and the operation of the water tower was transferred to the San Bernardino Municipal District in the early 2000s. And then right now it's non-operational. It is approximately 160 feet high, with a tank being approximately 40 feet wide on the vertical elongated shape. It's about 40 feet. This is a really iconic symbol of the former Norton Air Force Base. It's a representation of those who served on the base. Because of that, there was an extensive process undertaken to relocate the water tower to its present location as part of the previously approved redevelopment of that area for the San Manuel Landing Warehouse Project. Currently, the proposed is that the water tower will be used as a significantly historical representation of the aeronautical history of the former Norton Air Force Base at that location, and pay homage to those who served in the community. They will do that through name, San Manuel Landing, and also the representation of a landing plane on the side. I'm gonna go to some images. Let's see. So this is what it looks like right now at the site when you go out there. As I mentioned, there's like little picnic areas that are gonna be here, landscaping once it's fully grown out. So it's gonna be a really nice aesthetic area for that location. So this is what it's gonna be like a sky blue. So it's gonna blend well with the architectural design of the development there, not really protruding too much and being too much of a standing out. And it's gonna have a white base. So that way it blends well within the surrounding community, and also keeping in mind that it is an important and iconic historical symbol of the base. And as part of that, they are doing something simple in terms of saying landing and like a symbol of a landing plane on there to kind of give that homage to those who served there within the community. With that, we, as staff, recommend that the Planning Commission adopt resolution number 2024-001, finding the project categorically exempt pursuant to section 15301, existing facilities, in accordance to SEQA, and approving sign 23-058 based on findings of fact and subject to the recommended conditions of approval. The applicant and owner is here to speak. They have provided a presentation if the commission is amenable to allowing that, and if you have any further questions as well. I do want to add, before proceeding with the recommendation, there was a finding of fact that unfortunately was not included as part of the package. We did revise it, and I believe we provided you with copies. It would be finding number 4 now, in where we have to do a finding and where utilize or enhance the architectural elements of the building. So how does the sign do that? And we have incorporated in finding in where we indicate how the existing architectural development of the warehouse has like vertical and horizontal and glaze mixtures, a mixture of gray with some also white lines that kind of breaks up the building. This essentially, the tower will be a light sky blue with a white base, so not creating too much contrast in comparison to what the development that is out there at the site. So I just wanted to put that for the record, that was corrected and added on.
Vice Chair Armstead, you can ask for questions of staff, but my recommendation would be to let the applicant and their team give their presentation first.
Okay, the applicant is here. Would you like to give your presentation, please?
Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay. Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Commission, city staff, and members of the San Bernardino community. My name is Peter Mateo. I'm the Planning and Development Director at San Manuel. Thank you for taking the time today to review our creative sign application. And Elizabeth did such a wonderful job explaining the sign that she kind of stole a little bit of my thunder, but we'd like to show you some imagery, and hopefully you guys get a better sense of what the sign looks like and how it will impact the community. So this is the current site. It was taken last fall in September of 2023. The site is on the southeast corner of 3rd and Victoria, in the city of San Bernardino. But the actual water tower itself is on the northwest corner of the 53-plus acre site. You can see trucks kind of going up and down Victoria, and then east-west is 3rd Street. This is an aerial we took from a drone. You can see, the palm trees out in front, and then the kind of the private park that we have there for use for kind of employees of our tenant, and obviously we're here today to get approval on the artwork. I'm not going to go through a lot of the detail here. You guys have kind of heard it from Elizabeth, but the tower was originally made in 1959 to service the Norton Air Force Base. It carries about 250,000 gallons when it was operational. Some interesting facts about it: we moved it about 700 linear feet to the northwest, and we used a Liebherr crane that was actually bigger than the one that moved the space shuttle into LAX. And a big thing for our team, for me, my staff, Sam, our project manager, was, we wanted to honor those who served on the base, but those who also worked on the base as private citizens, and really pay homage to the community. So we thought we were able to do that by, doing a pick and carry for the crane on the crane to the water tower, but also not doing a replica or something else that could be different. So that was the main focus: is how do we say thank you to those people that served for our community. And then I think Elizabeth did a great job with this, but we use the sky blue kind of color here. Some fun facts regarding the contractor. Their name is the Artist Brothers. We're gonna bring them down here from the Pacific Northwest in Spokane, Washington, and this is what they do. They do about 5 or 6 a year. They travel all over the country, and they specialize in water tower artwork. So we're gonna do it right. We're gonna prime the whole thing first, and then obviously paint the rest of the tower. You can see that kind of the contrast between the existing and proposed there. Obviously, the proposed side, the landscaping has grown in a little bit more, but we hope in time it will look like that. And then this is another rendering facing the southeast. So this is kind of a shot looking down south on Victoria. So that's all I have today. Do you guys have any questions? Yes, sir.
Vice Chair Armstead, sorry, Commissioner Quill. Would you like to open the public hearing at this time?
Okay. Thank you. I hereby open the public hearing for item number 3. Is there anyone wishing to speak on item number 3?
What, we're not at public comments yet. I just wanted to make sure you opened the public, I know it's in your script, but
Oh,
just want to make sure for the record, public hearing is open now, and then you can allow Commissioner Quill to ask his question.
oh, okay. So we open it for public hearing.
We're in the public hearing now.
We're in a public
And
hearing.
so
Go
we'll
ahead,
do,
Mr. Quill.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you very much for your presentation, and I'd also like to comment on the job site. I have visited a couple times. I'm very impressed with moving that large tank. That must have been quite a feat in itself. I read your letter here that you had put in the package here to the San Bernardino Planning Commission, and I appreciate all your comments and so on, but there's 2 things that pop out here. The historic nature of the project, and also the bottom line here says, we hope, let's see, a creative sign which we hope will allow the legacy of San Bernardino's industry and history to endure. Well, I really appreciate that, and because San Bernardino has a lot of history. And the history of that base is pretty important to a lot of residents here. A lot of us Vietnam veterans, that was the first ground we stepped on when we came home, okay? So that's pretty amazing area out there. Watching all the buildings go in and seeing the base kind of disappear in a way, I'm sure there might be some veterans that would probably agree with me. I think we still need to recognize that as a Norton Air Base or Norton facility, because if you know the history of Norton, Captain Leland Norton, he was also a native of this city. And he was killed in World War II, only 23 years old. He was a captain in the Air Force, and that's how that name of the base became Norton Air Force Base. So if we're going to do something historic, if we could just find some little way in your design to include the legacy of that base, I think it would be really important to that monument. And I think the overall community would really appreciate that kind of history. We appreciate what San Manuel's doing. We appreciate what San Manuel does throughout the whole community. But I think we'd like to have a little recognition for Leland Norton Air Force Base. That's my comment.
Yes, sir. There's several ways we can do that as well. You know, we could think of maybe some monument signage, additional lighting. I'll have to obviously talk to our design team. I'm not an architect by trade, but certainly we can look at some items there that could address some
Well,
of those.
I am a sign professional, and I guarantee you, you could add that to that copy. Because as it is, I believe that is being permitted as a off-site sign. So square footage, I don't think you're limited to too much square footage. So that could be added onto that tank. So personally, I'd like to see that as a condition. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll have to obviously talk to our team and see if we can make that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you for that comment, Commissioner Quill. You know, I don't have the history as far as Norton. I'm very familiar. I'm from the city, obviously, and I don't have the history, nor did I serve for the country. But just generally looking at it, I think it's beautiful. Anything coming into San Bernardino with fresh paint, so to speak, is definitely going to give it some life. The development over there is going really, really well. To me, it looks like I want to say marketing, but it looks like it's branding San Manuel. San Manuel is a very big in the community. We love San Manuel. We love everything they're doing in here. But if I'm driving by, or if I'm looking at the picture now, what I personally see is I want to say a marketing strategy, but I would call it something branding for San Manuel. San Manuel, I don't think needs the branding. Very big, well respected in the community, do a lot here, very appreciated. But I second Commissioner Quill. I think something other than just San Manuel blasted on the tank will look beautiful. I don't see nothing representing the city other than the landing portion. Yeah, maybe something Norton or something on top. And if I take your comment correctly, you're saying lighting or something on the ground pointing up, or some type of signage on the ground. I'm talking on the tank, where it's going to be make it historic. That's my comment. Thank you.
Anything else, commissioners?
I'll just add a quick comment that I appreciate you bringing renowned artists to do the work, but would certainly encourage you to connect with local artists as well, as part of creating this art, whatever it ends up being. There's a lot of great artists up and coming here in the city as well. Would love to learn from these folks.
Yep. Thank you, Commissioner Flores. On the screen wall, we actually spoke to some, I forgot who it was, the Downtown Collective, and we tried to get some of them to do some of our tiling. We just thought with this, it's a little tall, needs a crane, might be some safety issues. So, but we did reach out to them for some assistance and consultation, some of our tiling out front.
What about using maybe their local artists for some of the design renderings, putting Norton in there? Because I agree, Mr. Whalen, that Norton should be up there somewhere, since that is the history. The history there is the base.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to talk to our design team, but we would certainly want to open it up to the community.
So I'm not sure what our next step is. Yes, sir.
This question may be directed to staff, I'm not sure, but is this an on-site sign, or are we classifying this as off-site? And if it is off-site, that gives them the option to change the copy periodically also, like electronic message sign?
This is an on-site sign.
On-site,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
And this is the name of the center as well, or the development?
That's correct.
Well, the name on the building, what is the name on the building out there? It's a different name.
That's our tenant.
Your tenant?
Flex Sport, yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Armstead, if there are no more questions or comments from the commissioners at this time, now you can ask if there are public comments.
Okay, are there any public comments on item number 3? There are none. Then I close the public hearing. May I entertain a motion to item number 3? Go ahead,
I'll make
Mr.
a
Quill.
motion that we approve item number 3 with the condition that there is information on the tank with reference to Captain Leland Norton, or reference Norton, originally Norton Air Force Base. Something historic about Norton Air Force Base to be included.
I'd second that motion.
Vice Chair Armstead, before voting, I recommend you ask the applicant if he agrees to that condition.
Sir, as the applicant, are you agreeable to that recommendation?
I'm agreeable to that condition. I think I need to check with our investment board first.
And then a question is that something that you could send us a rendering with that revision so we can look at it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
So if you're bringing something back, you would need to continue the item to the next
we're doing?
meeting. Now, we do have a special meeting we're trying to coordinate for January 30th. I don't know what your timing is to perhaps take this back and take a look at it. The meeting after that will be February 13th.
I think we might need some time to get some renderings.
February 13th? Okay.
So to give some additional time, I'd recommend continuing the item to February 13th.
Okay, then we recommend continuing the item to February 13th, Commissioner? Okay.
But there still needs to be a motion to continue to that date, a second, and then a roll call vote.
I'll make a motion to continue. I'll make a motion to continue.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Commissioners? Is that a voice vote?
And that is, to clarify, that is a continuance to the February
February
13th meeting.
A roll call vote is required, and so you can
Okay.
ask Jennifer to call the vote.
Chair Armstead?
I couldn't hear you.
Chair Armstead?
Continue.
Commissioner Quill?
Yes.
Commissioner Flores?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherrick? Yes. Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Vote is 5-0. It passes.
Thank you, everybody.
We now move forward to item number 4, General Plan Amendment 24-01 and Development Code Amendment 24-01.
Good evening, Honorable Chair, members of the Planning Commission. So we're bringing back to you our General Plan Amendment 24-01 for our housing element, and we're bringing forward our draft housing element. There's actually two components of this particular item. The first is our draft housing element. This is the item we brought to you before Christmas, and you reviewed that. We took it to, was it July? Oh, so we've been going back and forth. So July was your meeting, and then City Council authorized us to submit our housing element, draft housing element to the Department of Housing and Community Development. And since that time, they've gone through their reviews. We've actually prepared updates to the element, responded to many comments. We still have a few more that we are working on responses that came in more recently. But we've been going back and forth with the state and also meeting with the litigants that had challenged our housing element. So what we have before you this evening is that compilation of updates to the housing element, some modifications, some additional programs. I'm going to let Travis really touch on that. The other item is a Development Code Amendment 24-01, and this is where we have some properties. They are all city-owned properties that we're working with affordable housing developers or that we own, that we are changing the zones to residential designations for future housing, and this helps us get to our regional housing needs numbers. So it's important that we take this concurrently to change those zones so we have more land available for affordable housing. And with that, I will turn it over to our Senior Planner, Travis Martin.
Sorry, thank you, Mary, and thank you, Chair and Commissioners, for this evening. So just a little recap. This is some information we went over in July, but just going to kind of run through it quickly so we understand kind of a baseline for what we're looking at tonight. Every city in the city, county, any jurisdiction within the state has to adopt a housing element, obviously including San Bernardino. This is something that runs on an 8-year cycle. The cycle we're currently in officially started back at the end of 2021, so we are a little bit late on that. That has been kind of the big push that we've had recently. And it will run through 2029. at which point we will then enter into the next cycle and prepare an updated version of this. Housing element addresses, current housing needs within the city, helps establish goals, policies for what we want to see. It's an element of the general plan, so very similar to the general plan in that way that it's kind of dictating what we want to see happen. It doesn't necessarily establish the exact ways that all of that will be executed. A lot of that then ties into, the zoning and our development code as far as the standards, the process, things of that sort. But it develops the kind of the overarching intention for the city in regards to housing. And as part of this, as Mary mentioned, we've gone back and forth through the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Well, it says Urban Development, sorry. Should be Community Development. That's a typo. Through HCD with the state. They're the state agency that regulates these and does review them, and ultimately will have to certify this element after we adopt it. And they're looking at it to make sure that it's complying with the necessary state and federal law. A little bit of background. Mary touched on this, but I'll try to expand just a little bit. Going back to September of 2020, that was when we started the larger process that involves this. That was when we began to consult with PlaceWorks, who's working on our larger general plan, the downtown plan you've heard of, our development code update, and then tonight, the housing element. Throughout all of 2022, we did a number of workshops throughout the city. These were really part housing related, part tied into the larger general plan project, but they were kind of the ward by ward workshops that we did where we, among other things, we did talk about the housing element. Through that, and with a lot of that input, we then did ultimately prepare our initial draft. Back in May and June, that was posted out for public review. That was ultimately kind of the base version that you looked at in July. As noted in July and then August, we brought this forward to yourselves and to the council, ultimately to authorize submittal to HCD for their first formal review. That happened between August and October. Then in October, we did receive a first round of comments from them. The element was then revised based off of that, and in November resubmitted. I want to clarify that is the version that was resubmitted in November is the version that was provided to you in the packet. Since then, and in that packet, the text, anything that was underlined or read underlined, those are the edits that were then made based off their comments, and those comment letters were also included in the packet. So in November, we submitted formally for the second round. That was a shorter review period, worked through with them kind of over the holidays, and then at the beginning of this month received a version or another comment letter that has then since caused more revisions to the document. That revised version was just completed this last week, so that has now been posted on our city's website and our project website, so it's available. It has additional edits in it, but unfortunately that was completed just after this packet was required to be posted. So there's very slight differences in there, but substantially it's kind of the same. It's all working to the same goals, but it will have additional information in that version, which is accessible on our city's website. There are then additional highlighted materials where you can see what was changed or see the sections that were changed. And then now with that, we have that posted for our current 7-day review period, and ultimately that will be resubmitted up to the state for final review in anticipation of bringing it forward at that special meeting that was referenced. So just again, kind of going through a little bit more overview on the process. As I noted, we did a lot of the community workshops, related to the general plan. There were, other, basically through this whole process, anytime we had an event through the city, there were some pedestrian kind of activity related events that were held downtown here over the last couple of years. We piggybacked on anything that we could just to get out into the community. If the people were going to be there, we wanted to be able to talk to them about it. So we did a lot through that. We've had everything on our website. We've worked with a lot of our local kind of advocacy groups, local and regional, that are really focused in on housing. They've been notified every time, we've posted anything new, including the draft this week. And they've provided comments. There's letters from some of those groups, and then the responses that we put together that are also in your packet. It's really been anywhere where we could find somebody. If we knew they wanted to know about housing, or if we met them on anything else, we tried to get out there and talk to them. And then, as I did note, anytime this has been resubmitted to HCD, we've had to go through a formal review. It's a minimum of 7 days where it's posted available. We re-notify all of those groups. We've done that through this whole process. They provide additional comments. So this is a rolling kind of cycle that we go through. So just getting to the document itself, and this was discussed briefly back at in the previous meeting. It's comprised of 7 chapters. We have our kind of introduction, laying out kind of the general information, the needs assessment, the constraints analysis, housing resources, information on fair housing, evaluating our program evaluation, and then ultimately our housing plan. As Mary started to speak to, the kind of the crux of all of this, the goal is about the RHNA. That's what it is. That is the number of units that the city has to allow for the development of housing during this housing cycle running through 2029. Those are not housing units we have to build, because as the city, we're not the developer, not generally, but we have to have property that is zoned appropriately, that has the right densities, that can provide, if somebody came in and said, I want to build every unit, there's a place to do that. So with our city, it's a total of 8,123 units that we have to provide for. That's broken up between low income or varying types of low income, extremely very and low, moderate income, and above moderate income. And then there's different numbers of units in each one of those categories that need to be provided, as is broken down on here. In the document, and this is an actual excerpt from the most recent version. We wanted to get you the best numbers for tonight. This is how we are looking at meeting that RHNA. You'll see through here, we have the total number at the very top, the approximately 2,500, 1,450, and then 4,160 in those 3 categories. We've figured out ways to meet that over a number of different categories. That includes pipeline projects. That's anything that the city's currently processing or recently processed, maybe in construction, things like that. We have ADUs. Obviously, that is a big number for us through this cycle, as it is for a lot of jurisdictions, since those have become much more prevalent in the last couple years. And that's broken up ones we've permitted over the last couple years since the cycle began, and then what we project based off of those averages over the last 3 years through the remainder of the cycle. We also have other existing residentially zoned property that is vacant and could be developed. And then we have, ultimately with those numbers, adding everything up, we are a little bit short. We don't have enough to meet that 8,100. So what we've had to do, as Mary mentioned, was rezone some additional property. That is, I'll explain on the next slide, that is not, or it is called out in the housing element. I forget which section, but I can bring that up in a moment. The way that we have done it, and with the timeline that we're working on, we are not changing anyone's privately owned property as far as the zoning is concerned. So if you have a commercially owned parcel in the city, it's not all of a sudden going to be zoned residential. No one's doing anything behind anyone's back, anything like that. We have looked to rezone some privately owned land, but what it is specifically upzoning it. So it's property that's already zoned for multifamily, and what we have done are targeted increases, increasing the density that would be allowed. So it's actually affording additional development opportunity for some of these properties and not taking away anything that anyone can currently do. The other half of it is city-owned property. Those are, because that is our land, it is surplus land, formerly under the redevelopment agency. We have taken a little bit more action on that. Most of those are commercially zoned properties. And I'll actually skip here. You can see it on the next slide, sorry. It says, as far as privately owned land, yes, it was 11 parcels, just under 20 acres combined. This is spread throughout a number of different properties in the city. It's not all one consolidated site, and we're upzoning those, increasing the densities. City-owned land, the majority of it is commercially owned property. We are changing that to residential. And this has been looked at kind of in tandem with the zoning update and the development code update that we're doing, just to make sure that it's consistent with what we would then do citywide. It's just in advance specifically for the purposes of this element. And then we do have one residential parcel. I will add, a lot of the city-owned properties are also ones that we've considered because they are properties that have been identified as projects that our housing division is working with certain development partners on. So they're aligning with that. We're not trying to do anything just completely out of the blue. It's all purposeful and tied to some project we've been able to identify. And going kind of the last thing, since, as I mentioned, there's been revisions since you last saw this in November, and then revisions that we've posted this month. It's a number of things. It's a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, I can't go point by point through everything. As noted, it is color-coded in the document, though, if you want to review any further. But what I did want to call out were a couple of the significant things that we've done. The first thing are some programs that we've modified and added within the document. The programs are kind of we know we want to do this, so we developed a program that says this is how you're going to execute it. It's tied to certain dates. There's things in there. One of them is the rezonings. Other ones are updating the development code, looking at fees, things like that. But these specifically, the single-family infill program, this is program 1.4 in the document. This is something that was already in there previously, but one thing we did do was expand on it a little bit. We did find more surplus sites that the city owns that would be suitable for additional residential development. Those are ones that haven't been surplused yet, but they are those former redevelopment sites that will be or anticipated to be through the cycle. So those would then come online. The other three programs, starting with 3.2, these are all new since the previous draft that you saw. The first one, I said 3.2, is the rental property inspection program, excuse me. This is kind of what is coming online as a result of the removal of the crime-free multi-housing program that we had. I won't get into all the nuances of that discussion because there was a whole lot more there, but the basic idea was there was a number of things that were eliminated with the deletion of that program. There were certain things that were agreed to be kept, and that was really tied just to the property maintenance of these multifamily properties. So that's what this would kind of incorporate as a new program, with the other portions of the crime-free no longer standing. And then the last two, these are among the most new. These are actually coming up in that version that was just posted. We have program 5.7. This is more about housing mobility, and this is looking at kind of how we're providing not just housing in the city, but how we're providing it kind of across the board. Because not every neighborhood is going to be new development. Not every neighborhood needs the same type of housing. You may need some lower income here. We may need higher income, different housing product types. I know those are some of the points we've discussed before. So we want to make sure that, that's kind of being addressed. We don't just drop everything in one area. Not all housing is going to go in downtown. There's going to be housing infill in some neighborhoods. There's going to be new neighborhoods built, things like that. And then program 5.8, that's the place-based initiative program. That's somewhat similar. That's where we look at, we have those areas where new housing needs to be built. Obviously, we have those 8,100 units that we have to address, but we also have existing neighborhoods that are here, existing housing stock of varying types, and there's information in there about how those will be maintained and improved, looking at the infrastructure that's there, looking at just the housing stock itself, because we have to approach, ultimately with housing, we have to approach it, looking backward and forward to kind of encapsulate everything. As far as just other changes in the document, not program specific, there's a section on fair housing analysis. We did provide additional information. This was through discussion and the comments we received from the state. Just addressing, as I mentioned on the previous slide, kind of the specific needs in the varying communities through the city, because those are not going to be, it's not one blanket need citywide. There's a section on constraints to development. That's something that's important that we looked at to see if there's anything through the city that is stopping someone from or making it harder for someone to be able to come in and develop housing. A lot of that and what was discussed and some examples that are noted in there are things with our permit process. Not saying that there's anything wrong, but we've looked very hard to see if there's ways we can streamline processes. A lot of that is going to, bringing on our staff, the code update that we're doing, the zoning map update that we're doing, making sure that, we have the most straightforward, understandable process that people can actually come in and do. So that there's no roadblocks that people will hit unduly. There's also, as I mentioned, the development standards with the code update, and then things like our fees, looking at, permit fees, impact fees, things like that. Obviously, we do need to recoup those, for the appropriate work that's being done, but we wanted to, and it's important to look to see if there's anything where it's going above and beyond and may make it, restrictive for people to come in and build housing. Next, we have the land inventory. That was revised to, as we've gone through this process, it's been 6-7 months since we've been here before. There's been new projects that have come online, new project applications that we've had, things that have been approved. So we've gone through and updated that information in those tables just to make sure we're counting all those units that we can and make sure that it's as up to date as possible as it moves forward. And then the last section was in program evaluation, added more information, more detail on, that outreach and those, the workshops, the other housing related events that we've had, both city sponsored, ones through legal aid, ones where we've consulted with some of the local groups like Just SB and others. So as far as next steps, tonight we're bringing this forward. We do want to discuss. We're not looking for action on this item because we do need to go through a last process with HCD on this last set of revisions. But we wanted to introduce it, show you the majority of the document. What is now that version that is available online is anything that is not color-coded has been basically signed off. There's no corrections that have been provided on that, and I would say it's, well within the 90% or above. And now we're at very, fine point things that have been corrected. Once that is signed off, we're looking to come back. That would be 2 weeks, or in just under 2 weeks on the 30th of January. That's pending scheduling that officially. And then it's that date, it's with that date that we would proceed to the City Council on February 21st for ultimate recommendation of adoption of this. Once that has been adopted and approved by the council, we would then have to submit it back to HCD for their final certification. And at that point, we're done. We get to have a housing element until 2029, and then we'll be back. So our recommendation this evening, with all of that in mind, receive any comments, questions that you may have, or the public may have, any direction that you may have, and then ultimately this evening we would recommend continuing the items, General Plan Amendment and Development Code Amendment 2401, to a special meeting that we would be looking to schedule on January 30th of this year. And with that, I will open it up. We do have myself, we have Mary, and we do have our consultant here this evening if you do have any questions.
Okay, I do have a question. Can you elaborate on that 5.7 again, the mobility? I don't quite understand what that is all about. Maybe just clarify it.
Chair Armstead, would you like to open the public hearing? It's okay. You just say that it's open.
I hereby open public hearing or public comment for item number 4.
Thank you.
Hello. In terms of the question for housing mobility, part of state law in the fair housing law requires that affordable housing needs to be located throughout the city. not just in areas which are more affordable, but also in areas which tend to be higher rent, higher income areas. And so what the Housing Mobility Program does is when you look across the city, there is the bulk of the affordable housing is in most of the areas, except for approximately, generally the northwest area. And so what HCD required the city to do was to demonstrate how they would encourage and facilitate affordable housing, specifically in the northwest area. And there's 4 different ways that they're going to be doing that. One is to be working with the Housing Authority to encourage and to market rental vouchers in that area for the 16 or 18 apartment complexes that are there. The second would be to work with the Housing Authority to preserve the Kendall project. There's approximately 10 affordable units there. The third strategy was to encourage the development of affordable accessory dwelling units. In that area, you already have a large development which is producing affordable ADUs. And then the final strategy would be to surplus the BICE property. And with the surplusing of land, a minimum of 15% would need to be affordable as well. And so with those 4 strategies in place, that would allow for a certain amount of affordable housing to be developed in that area and be and have greater access to the amenities in those areas. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I have a question. We have this, once we approve this, how are we ensuring that the owners, developers are following the guidelines that we put out? Is there any way?
So with the housing element, the housing element actually presents the opportunity for the properties to be developed. So that is our goal. That's our requirement, is to make everything available, to identify sites, location, programs for the affordable housing. So it doesn't require a specific developer coming in to build affordable housing. If they're coming into a zone, if they want to build a market rate apartment project at 50 dwelling units per acre, for example, that's what's allowed, they can do that. What the housing element does do is it does describe opportunities and opportunities the city is taking to provide affordable housing opportunities. So for example, with our surplus land, we actually go out through a kind of a RFP process to some extent to actually notify the development community about these properties. We solicit proposals from interested parties that would like to either acquire the property in some fashion, be it a land write-down, a specific amount of money, or a lease from the city, and that's how we secure actual covenants for affordable housing. So when a developer comes in, they're getting, we're providing the land, say they want to build a 100-unit complex, they're going to make it 100% affordable. That's really how we show the numbers of affordability in meeting our housing element. But as far as that, we can't force developers to come in here and build affordable housing. The good news is, we right now have 3 developers that do build affordable housing that are 100% affordable that are coming into the city. We do have private owners in the city that are building accessory dwelling units. And because of the size of those units, many of them fall into various affordable ranges, be it low income, some can be moderate. There's probably some out there very low. But unless there's something that is being given or provided to the developer by funding, land, or what we call tax credits, we don't have covenants on the land. So we are doing quite a bit with the outreach on the housing element. It presents the opportunity. I think the city's commitment to affordable housing is significant right now. We have funding sources that will be able to assist some of the developers. We have some what's called home ownership from the federal government. We get in, $1 million to maybe $3 million a year into that program that we can help provide gap financing for some developers. The county housing authority has vouchers. They have various types of vouchers, Section 8 vouchers, and I think this is what Travis was kind of alluding to, is that with the vouchers that are provided for to help subsidize individual rents, is to market to some of these other apartment complexes that are in the city. So we'll be reaching out to the housing authority to request that. We can't require them to, but we certainly can work in partnership. And then you have project-based vouchers for some of the projects that are 100% affordable, or even a portion. So I think, you know, in the programs that we've developed, we're providing the opportunity, we're being proactive in reaching out to the affordable housing community. But again, you know, it is up to the developers to come in. And I think it's important to note, because I did have a conversation with a developer building building actually in 2 small apartment projects here in the city, was interested in doing what's called a density bonus. That's another component that we brought to you at the last meeting that we're bringing forward to council that allows to increase the density of properties, and also to have other concessions for like setbacks, parking, sometimes design to help trigger some affordable units. So they're exploring the option to see if financially they can add a few affordable units in exchange for some density. So that's where the private developers can come in and say, well, maybe I can provide 1 or 2 units. Yes, I'll give you covenants for 55 years. I get, you know, 5 more units perhaps, or maybe I can reduce my parking, or my setback can be offset a little bit. So that's some of the other ways the city can help encourage the private, you know, for-profit developers to come in and develop more affordable housing.
If they agree to accept what the city offers, is there something, you said there's covenants in their agreements with the city, or how do we? make sure they
Absolutely.
follow it?
So any of the government agencies, be it, you know, because a lot of these projects have multiple funding sources. If they're 100% for affordable, they're likely going to have what's called tax credit financing, where they're financing through state tax credits or federal tax credits. There's affordability covenants and requirements on those, and they're recorded on the property. So you have investors that have actually basically bought something similar to bond financing, where you actually have investors, and that's how they provide these tax credits. So it's a good tool. There's covenants on those. We also have agreements whenever we provide funding for a project, like home funding. And if the county's providing funding as well, we could provide community development block grant funds. We actually record affordability covenants on all of the properties. So those are recorded as part of the agreements for that particular project in exchange for getting that money. If there's a land transfer, there's concurrent deeds where you have actually a deed of trust that actually includes all of the covenants, and there's another term I'm trying to think of that we add to it, but it's a covenant of affordability. I believe it's called an affordability covenant that's included with that and recorded with the property. You're welcome.
Any other commissioners?
I have a question for clarification on the RETA numbers. If you can go back to the table, could you clarify, is that a net increase number, or is that just proposed addition of the zone capacity? And I only ask because there's been residents who have raised concerns about the loss of units due to developments, industrial developments in the city. So do these numbers account the units that have been lost within this time period?
So what I would say, so when you're looking at units, and I'll let Mark step in as well. So when we're looking at providing the opportunity for development, it's based on residentially zoned land. So when we're looking at, you know, all of these units available, all of the units are in residentially zoned land. So now, if you have a property that's industrial that does have residential units there, when, and I'm not sure, do you know on that one? On residential units? Yeah, so for like industrial. So what you're asking for, so we have properties, I know people are concerned, that have been zoned industrial for 30, 40, whatever years, and there's actually residential units there, but it's industrial zoned. And the concern by community members is that we perhaps might, when we lose those units, or those replaced.
So there's a couple things. If affordable units are lost, and by affordable units, it's either a unit which is deed restricted, it could be a unit that was rent controlled, or it could be a unit that was occupied by a lower income resident. The way state law is now is those units must be replaced in order for the city to obtain credit toward their RENA goals. So if there's, in a sense, that helps the displacement issue because it's a one-for-one. You lose one, it has to be replaced. Now, and that's actually a new state law that came into effect about a year or two ago. The numbers on top, the total number, the 8120, that includes three components in there. It includes the units that are needed to accommodate new population and job growth. The second thing it includes is the units that are needed to have enough vacant units, because if you have enough vacant units, it moderates the rent. The number also includes a third component, which is what we call a demolition component. So what SCAG does is they look over the last 10 years and they look at the trends in how many demolitions are occurring per year. And so say, for example, in the past you have 100 demolitions that occur. I think the city maybe has, every city has a few. What SCAG does is they increase your production goal to accommodate all of those that were lost in the prior 10 years. So the number says, despite what we're going to make sure that you replace everything in the past. That's within the 8123. And then it also says if you happen to lose any in the future, you also have to have those replaced in order to get credit for it. So it is a little bit complicated. You also have other types of projects in the city where if they're demolished, there are replacement requirements. So for example, when the Waterman project was demolished, HUD said you must replace these. And so those were replaced on a one-for-one basis. So it kind of depends on which housing stock you're looking for. But in the big picture, yes, they are replaced.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Through the chair, I have a question, Travis. The document you want us to look at tonight is the one that's on the planning website, correct?
Yes. So the newest version, the one I said that was just posted just earlier this week, that has the most recent updates based off the letter we just received. That's on the Planning Division's page.
Okay.
On the city's website through Community Development, there's the Planning Division page, and then there's a specific page for the housing element. It's linked a couple different places on that page.
Got it. I have another question. I know that we hear developers say, oh, this project isn't feasible for me. At times, or not we hear, but you guys hear it, and then through that there are modifications that are made that Mary alluded to, like we could change setbacks. The one thing I noticed in this, it says that specifically undergrounding can be waived if it's not feasible for the developer to follow through with. And who determines what is and isn't feasible for the developer? Is it the developer saying, oh, this project isn't feasible for me, I want you to waive this? And what type of analysis is done before that determination is made?
I'll say with your specific example, with things like undergrounding, there are established guidelines already in the municipal code through the development code about when and where waiving things like that may be appropriate. It's not in every condition. Easy example is you have an entire block that's already built. You have one lot right in the middle of it. None of it's underground. You're typically not going to go and make somebody just have that dip and pop back up, because that's not realistic. Or you have like really high voltage lines, the massive transmission towers, those are not feasible for really anyone to be moving. So we will waive things like that, but that's not addressed in here. That's more of a reference kind of example. We have standards for things like that. If it's other Other items, like Mary had mentioned, more specific development standards, that's something that we would just have to look at on a case by case. I don't have a specific example, but that's why we do have processes that you've seen through here as far as our variances, if maybe there's topography issues or something that would preclude, compliance. But that's figured out as projects come up.
So, and just to add on, one of the main ordinances we have through the development code for reductions or in requirements is the density bonus law. And our density bonus now is updated to state law. What that includes is its waivers and concessions. And there's formulas depending on the affordability that you're providing. So, if you're coming in with a 100% affordable project, when you come in and so for example, setbacks are usually one. There's not usually, I don't usually see too much in setbacks. Usually they're able to make, reasonable setbacks. Usually it'll be a reduction in patio area, private space. It can be if the city's architectural guidelines require the front door to be elevated, and you're building steps, or you require enhanced architecture, you're requiring fencing, a certain type of a decorative fence. Let's say you're required to do a block wall, and the developer says, well, if I this is going to cost me X amount to build this, I'm going to request a waiver for this. They do need to provide some justification on the cost of that and why it is too costly for this particular development. So that is something we do look at. Generally with 100% affordable, they are coming in, they're going to need some waivers and concessions to make that pencil, and they're getting all the funding to do that.
A quick question. That's the table that I should be looking at when I go online? Because it's different.
Yeah, sorry, this was prepared with but I apologize. I know this has been very fluid, so there's revised versions kind of overlapping each other. These numbers specifically are the most up to date. These are what is in the draft. Commissioner Sherrick had mentioned is on the website. So these are what we're actually moving forward in. The version that was from that November draft, which was what was included in your packet, the time of distribution is slightly different.
I just went to the city site and pulled it just now. On agendas, packet? No, that's not.
No, that's still the version in the packet.
that's still the old one.
That was what was distributed on Thursday. It's the version on our actual department's webpage.
Thank you.
At the end of the day, I will say, though, the total number and the way it breaks down between the three different income levels, that remains fixed. Nothing's changed there. It's just been a little bit of additional information acknowledging the rezonings that we're talking about. That's in that kind of second section down. And then, a little bit more information on the breakdown on ADUs, things. But how they add up ultimately is a fixed number that's set by SCAG.
And I did want to note for the record, since we're talking about the RENA numbers, all of our housing element numbers right now for RENA are based on our existing zoning. Because we're in the midst of the general plan update, we're anticipating a number of changes and opportunities with mixed-use zones coming up, that we will actually exceed our RENA numbers for this cycle. So we will be providing more opportunities than what we're showing on this. I mean, we're very close with our numbers because of just the point in time we as a city are at updating the general plan, which is why we're doing the rezones of our properties to help accomplish this, and also counting the ADUs. But over the course of the next year, as we're getting, back on track with the general plan, getting the zoning, we will be exceeding these numbers. There will be a lot more opportunities for increased housing.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Any other comments?
I got a few questions in regards to ADUs. Are all these total units in regards to the housing element, including ADU and junior ADU?
Yes, yeah. Looking at this table specifically, everything that's in that first category, it says ADUs permitted in 2021 through 2023. That was really since the current ordinance came online. That includes every type of ADU that's been done: single family properties, multifamily, full junior units. And then, as I noted, the remainder section is kind of extrapolating those kind of average trends over the remaining years.
Okay, and then lastly, in regards to ADUs, is there any affordability elements in regards to ADUs?
No, there is not. Unless for some reason there was a request for financial assistance, but the city does not have any programs right now funded to do any type of assistance there. Usually if there's affordability, it's tied to some benefit for that property owner financially.
So the developer or property owner of the particular ADU can rent that property at whatever they see feasible?
Correct.
It would be dictated as the market would.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is that it for the commission? I've got 2 public comment slips. Did both of you?
If you want to read the name of the first person, well,
Daniel Javanji, okay. Yes, sir, go ahead.
All right, thank you. All right, hello, folks. My name is Daniel Javanji. I'm a 7th Ward resident, and I came to express a few notes and some action items for y'all tonight. So my notes are on the general plan and the housing element, and they're kind of mixed in together. My first note is I would like to see ideally more zoning designations. I think the intent was noble when we're redoing the general plan, the housing element, to kind of reduce some things and simplify it, but also try to improve our zoning and general plan in such a way where we're moving forward in a positive direction. I feel like in that quest, maybe there was a little bit more of a reduction in zoning designations I like. I always like seeing more because when we have a city such as our size, we have different neighborhoods and different uses in the neighborhoods and different housing quality stock. We might have industrial bordering some residential areas. So having more zoning designations is always a good thing, in my opinion. Also having better variety in terms of, housing that you can build within certain zoning designations like residential high, residential medium, things like that. Sometimes it can be an incentive for a developer. At the moment, planning staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think residential high, you can build up to 50 units, I think. I might be wrong on that, but the point that I'm making is that in my classification of residential high, maybe you can have a wider range of units, anywhere from 50 to 120. And that zone can only be applied in, the areas where we designate that it's appropriate. So that way, if a developer comes in and says, hey, based on the existing plans, it looks like we can only build a 3 to 4 story building. Maybe in downtown, we want to build an 8-story building or a 7-story. And in that way, maybe we can have more affordable housing, and then the city's generating more revenue. We have more units, we're collecting more revenue, and then that could go towards the parks, the libraries, making sure that we have adequate staffing at the city. To kind of cap off my things, and before I go into too many tangents, another concern that I have is that I like the city staff. I'm sad that Mary's going, she's retiring. I'm glad with all the staff that I've met and encountered, but I feel like there could be more planning staff. I feel like the planning staff have done the best that they've can, but they've been working at a deficit. And with all of the political turmoil and everything going on, it's really hard to get a really comprehensive plan created on time. For example, Boise, Idaho spent 4 years on their general plan. They're a city of comparable size to us. Thank you.
Good evening, Planning Commission and staff. My name is Rocio Guayo. I'm a resident of the First Ward, and I really just want to thank Director Lanier and the whole staff and the team for really taking into consideration all of our feedback regarding the housing element draft, all the different times that it's been revised, and just wanted to note one last suggestion. And before I get into that, I want to note that it's page 736, which is program 4.2. So if you can turn to that page if you need to. So in this section, it highlights the mobile home park rent stabilization that the city has. And we are in support of it as Joe San Bernardino. The issue is, I think this ordinance was adopted in 1993 or something like that. And so I'm not sure if the ordinance is reflective of today's regulations and laws. And so we would love to see a recommendation for that ordinance to come back and be updated, as well as there's not a lot of clarity around the administrative process for this, because it does state right there, continue mobile home rent stabilization program, ensure that all rental increase requests go through the proper administrative and hearing process. And I just didn't see that process outlined in the housing element like other processes were outlined. So we would love to see that last amendment go through and the recommendation that this program come up to the council for vote for just to be updated. And that's all I had to share. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing what else you do, Ms. Lanier, and we're gonna miss you. Thank you.
Next, can we have Ruben Mendoza?
Hello, everyone. Good night. It's good to be here with you all. My name is Ruben Mendoza. I recently started working right across the street at 341, in case you guys ever want to visit, with Uplift San Bernardino. I'm their new housing associate, and I'm responsible for advancing the production of housing, primarily through the implementation of policy. And I want to carry on the conversation about ADUs, because there's a really awesome HUD policy, Housing and Urban Development, that came down in October 2023. So hypothetically speaking, let's say I want to get into a property that has an ADU, or I want to build an ADU. So let's say there's already an ADU existing on the property. If you get an FHA mortgage, they would consider up to 75% of the estimated ADU rental income for the purchaser, like myself, for example. So on paper, it looks like I can qualify for more, and I can actually get into a property. If you want to build an ADU, it has to be attached to an existing structure, and it would allow up to 50% of the estimated rental income on my purchasing power. And you can take out another FHA loan, which is the 203K rehab. I think this is awesome for this community where, especially the Latina community, there's multiple generations under one household. So, you know, maybe the main family in the main house, and then grandma or someone like my age in the ADU. So I like the conversation about the ADU and where that's going. One other thing that I wanted to bring up is the density bonus. So give me 1 second. So the density bonus, any housing development that proposes 5 or more units and incorporates at least one of the requirements below is eligible for a density bonus. I'm only going to highlight one of them for now. So a project that includes a childcare facility would be eligible for a density bonus. And this is great for a working class community, right, that doesn't have the opportunity to drop off their children at a childcare facility because they don't open until like 7 or 8 in the morning, and they have to be at work maybe at like 5, 6 a.m. And then these would be deed restricted to affordability of 55 years. So yeah, just thinking about like, you know, what's the lifestyle that people live and what kind of support do they need? You know, a lot of households can't afford to have a babysitter or pay for childcare. So if we can integrate that into the housing development already, that would be awesome. And that's really it. I plan to attend these sessions more regularly. I just want to just be a supportive person in this process. And full disclosure, I'm not from the city of San Bernardino. I work here, so I only consider myself an ally. And I have friends and family that live here. And I grew up in Rialto, and so I just see a lot of blight, a lot of sprawl. And yeah, I just want to come into this picture as an ally and just help my friends out. Thank you all.
Any more public comment? No more?
So perhaps, Chair, I can just touch on a few of the items that the speakers did present, just since we're all discussing the housing element. On the zoning designations, the land use element is being worked on right now. The Planning Commission really hasn't been too involved in the general plan process yet. It's been focused on our General Plan Advisory Committee. Unfortunately, during my time here, there's been so much happening. We haven't, and with the housing element and the litigation, this has been our really big push to get this done, and our consultant team has been right here with us. And but that will be coming back through. We're going to be gearing back up the General Plan Advisory Committee here in the coming months. But I think you'll find with the zoning designations, we are looking at more designations for the zoning. We are looking at higher densities throughout the cities. So I think there's some real opportunities. So for the community, please tune in kind of and watch that process. So we'll be picking that back up. And definitely you'll see some increases. I'll touch on staff later on. And just thank you to Daniel and Rosio on my appreciation. I'm enjoying being here, and I'll touch on that later as well. On the mobile home rent stabilization ordinance, this is part of our municipal code. So the actual process and requirements are outlined in the city's municipal code. I'll have to get that code section, but so we don't outline it in this particular document. We reference it in the housing element. But I will make a note to our team to, perhaps take a look at that. It is an older ordinance. I don't know what the legal kind of realm on reviewing that. Sometimes it's beneficial to open some of those old ordinances up. Sometimes it's good to keep them because they have a little more teeth than something new. But we'll make a note to my it's not predecessor, it's who's my successor, that this is an item to kind of take a look at. Let's see. ADUs, I thought that was good information on FHA. I didn't know that they were doing loans like that, so I thought that was really great. And just on the density bonus, yes, childcare facilities are allowed. I also wanted to say, it kind of dawned on me, when you do a density bonus, you don't always have to increase your density to get the benefit. If you're providing the affordable units, you can benefit through concessions and waivers of some of the city's requirements. So it doesn't always require increasing the density, but it does secure the affordability, and you can get other benefits from the density bonus law. So it's really a great tool. I've used that on a number of projects. And with the housing element, it is fluid right now. We have the new draft uploaded. We've sent that to HCD. We're expecting their review. They normally review it after the public review period, so we're trying to get some concurrent reviews because we have very strict deadlines on when we have to get this done. We don't have the luxury of taking time, and I think that's good. I think we put a lot of effort into this, and our consultant team, was working. We were working over the holidays, responding to the HCD comments. And I did want to just say thank you to the PlaceWorks team, because we would not be able to do this housing element without them. Their knowledge and experience and understanding of the city has been really instrumental and really to Travis as well. He is, with the departure of a number of staff, he has really stepped up and really spearheaded this. So I really appreciate his efforts as well. And so we'll be doing some fine tuning. We're working with our litigants. We have another call tomorrow. We're hoping to get close. I think we made a lot of headway, and then we'll be really excited to bring this back to you. We'll talk about the meeting later. And then once we have the general plan ready to go and we do rezonings again, then we'll even be revisiting probably the housing element for that, making some amendments to update it based on our new general plan. And with that, if you have any other questions, we'd be happy to answer those for you.
Commissioners? Okay. So our next step, sir?
If nothing else, staff has asked for a motion to continue the item to January 30th? Is that
January 30th?
Yes.
to January 30th? And so you need a motion, second, and a vote.
I'll make a motion to continue the item to January 30th.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call vote? Okay.
Chair Armstead? Commissioner Quill?
Yes.
Commissioner Flores?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherrick? Yes. Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Vote is 5. It's unanimous. It passes to continue.
I will just add, when we do that, normally as a continued item, it would be just coming back to exactly what we've looked at. But at that point, just for clarity, we will be bringing to you the most up-to-date version, including anything that has come up in this time. That is the intention, just so that you have the best information for consideration.
So the next item on your agenda is the Planning Commission reports and announcements.
Any planning commissioners, you have any announcements?
No, I don't have anything. However, I will be absent next meeting. I mean, I'll be here the 30th, but next month, so.
Okay. Okay, so the next item then is Director's Report, and I do want to confirm, are all of you available on the 30th? We're really, this is kind of our critical date.
Yeah, I can't commit. I'll be traveling back. To have a quorum, I can't commit to that. If I fly in, I'd pop in, but I don't want to commit to that. I'm not sure on the
Okay.
flights.
We polled for this date. Let me go. Okay, let me hand this over to Jennifer, because we need some backups, because we have to get to council. We have certain deadlines, so let me hand this over to Jennifer.
So Commissioner Amelia is not here today, but she did confirm that she's available the 30th. And just from the email responses I got, Commissioner Sherrick, Chair Armstead, Commissioner Flores, and Commissioner Quill, you guys can be available the 30th, so that would give us our 5. We would have quorum.
Thank you. So a few items to go over. I wanted to announce some staff promotions. We don't have everyone here this evening, but we have been doing recruitments. One of the, I think, our community representative for letting us know that they appreciate the staff and we need more, and we do. We have been doing quite a bit of recruitment to really bring and help support the department. I have brought on through our Wildan contract with our building and safety, we have 2 planning aides that are working our front counter now, so they're able to handle some of the day-to-day work. We're going through some training. We also have a contract associate planner that's doing backroom plan checks, not in the office, but that's sometimes the best way to get work done is when you're working independently. So we have that. And then we have, I know I mentioned that Travis was promoted to our senior planner at a prior meeting. Mike Rosales, who's been here for a number of years. He's our new senior planner. He did go through the full recruitment as well. Jennifer Miamber, she is our new executive assistant to the director. She was serving as the interim, but she is officially now the executive assistant. And then we have our new our new senior customer service rep, and Sulema Lopez is here tonight. She's actually she's been working at our front counter, really getting to know the city and the questions that come in. She'll be coming in to help support the commission and working with the planning staff, responding, getting out to the community, responding, handling phone calls. So we're really excited to have her on as well, building that planning team. And then we do have some new positions starting for associate planner, planning aide, and fingers crossed assistant planner will be coming on. So really, we have a real big backlog of projects, and we're excited to really start moving those forward. Our team right now has done a tremendous job. It's amazing that you don't always see all the behind the scenes stuff, and I haven't been able to get the reporting out that I would like, but I'm trying to set the stage for our new director and just in motion to help improve some of the communication going forward. And then I know the city manager is going through interviews for the new director. So those are taking place. They sort of take place last week and this week. My time with the city is coming to an end. I am a CalPERS retired annuitant. I've been out of the game for about 10 years. I came back here. It was an interesting story. I won't go into it, but I came back. I think San Bernardino is such an amazing place. And I started my career here, and it was nice to be able to spend some time and just bring my experience from all these years to help the team during the interim. So I've been real excited to do that. I'll be winding down here this month. I plan to be here at the January 30th meeting. I will likely be here for the Planning Commission meeting, depending on when the new director comes in, and likely the 21st City Council meeting for the housing element. I think it's really important to kind of finish that one project, so I'm watching. I have limited hours, so I'm watching my hours to kind of get me through, because it's really tough when you're on housing elements. I've done a few, and I want to see that through. So I'll be in and out, so I won't be officially gone, but it's certainly been my pleasure to serve all of you and work with you. I think we're making a lot of great headway. The general plan progress, as I've mentioned, we're getting back on track on that. There's been, with a large department is community development. We have the housing section. We have a lot going on there. We actually have 3 affordable housing projects that we're working with developers on. Those will be shifting over to the planning department. Some might come before you, some might not, depending on some of the legislation. A lot of affordable housing it can go through administratively. So it really will depend on the scope, and there's some environmental review, but there's a lot of streamlining right now for affordable housing, but we do have 3. Some big news today is that we, in partnership with Lutheran Social Services of Southern California and Dignity Moves, our partners, for the wellness campus over, I think it's at G and just north G, for the men's shelter for a wellness center. We just received almost $35 million in home key funds for that facility. That's something that staff's been working on. So there'll be some service facilities, some shelter facility. So that's a really big commitment from the state, and our housing team will be working closely to administer that. A lot happening on the homeless front. We have our navigation center that we're working closely on, and this is over on, is it 6th Street North? I believe north. It's on the eastern end of the city, but it's the old. It was a Hope campus. So it was a school, I think, some type of school. City owns the property, and so that's our navigation center for the homeless. our homeless team, our housing team, and all of our city staff. We have Public Works involved in planning for that. We have a partner for funding, which is Hope the Mission. We have a home key application in for that one for about 20 million. Fingers crossed on that. Motel vouchers that we've talked about in the housing element to help with our unhoused for the interim. So, and then our economic development teams moving over to the city manager's office and expanding. Code has expanded over the past, year and a half. They're really starting, it takes a while to really build the momentum, get all the radios, the cars, build up the team. So there's a lot of momentum happening in code enforcement. And then building and safety, we're seeing a significant number of building permits coming through, a lot of valuations, a lot of development coming into the city. So, and then real property, who you don't really hear much about, is in community development right now, and they're handling all of our surplus land properties. They handle some of the properties the city owns. The city still owns some properties from the old redevelopment agency. The theater, the California Theater, they handle all of those leases. They handle all the street vacations, all of our community facility districts. So it's a lot going on, and I'm happy to see there's a lot of momentum within the whole department. So I don't have anything else, but I'm just really, it's been my pleasure to be here, and I hope to see you at the next two meetings. And then I'll be passing the baton to our new director. But thank you.
Chair Armstead, I wanted to also add something. Just a friendly reminder for all of you that your statement of economic interests, your Form 700, it's due April the 2nd. So please mark that on your calendars.
I have a question. Well, first of all, I'd like to comment. It's been very nice working with you. Nice to see you. And wish you well on your retirement. Are you going to be retiring?
No, I'll go back to my life. I have a small business, a private planning and
terrific.
environmental firm, and so I do private development. So that's really helped me here.
Great.
But yeah, I'll go back to that. I'm not quite ready to retire.
Great. Is there any update on the Carousel Mall project or land?
The demolition is moving along. I think they're getting pretty close on that. I know our new city manager, Charles Montonio, he is actually really engaging now. I know you haven't probably heard too much. He's, I think, really diving into a lot of the key issues of the city, meeting with the council, and he's just now starting to get out in the community. I know there's conversations, and our economic development team is working with our public works department on some next steps on that. I think, there might be some information coming out. I know some work, some things are being worked on. It is a very big property. It's about 40 acres. And there's a lot of decisions to be made. Do we, partner with a master developer for the entire site? Do we parcel it out to smaller developments? There's probably going to be some affordable housing component. But I think really a lot of thoughtful conversations will be occurring on what should go there next. It's really a gem. It's a long-term development opportunity to not rush into. But I know everyone's excited to, just move that forward. So I know that's one of his key items that he'll be looking at.
I also want to express thank you. Thank you so much for working with the city of San Bernardino and good in your next phase.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All right. All in favor? Done. Okay.
And please, and the community is welcome to join us. We have cupcakes here because Monique was leaving. We wanted to just send her off with a little celebration. So please, let's enjoy.